Welcome to this week's episode of Married and Broke. I'm Mitchell.
And I'm Emma.
And this week we're talking about all things related to food.
Food.
Whether it's going out to eat, meal prepping,
grocery shopping,
all of the jazz.
Look, groceries and food and everything pretty much is just expensive these days.
Very expensive.
And looking at our budget, one of the hardest things that we have...
Second to our mortgage, it is our highest category of expenses.
And it is really
hard. Rent. We have rent, not mortgage. Sorry, brain fart. We do rent. I was going to say mortgage again. Rent. I was going to say mortgage twice.
We do rent.
We do rent. Second to rent, food is our highest category of spending in our budget.
Yes, and we're always thinking of how we can get that down.
And it never works.
It never works. There are some things that we have tried that do help. And so that's what we kind of want this episode to be about. Just talking about.
We have compiled a list of tips, and it's only 9. Well, technically 8. But that's all we could think of at this moment. But we wanted to share these tips with you because they are helpful. They're good tips. They do make a difference.
They're things that have worked for us.
Yeah.
And that we've seen make a difference.
Both in wasting less food and also spending less on food.
Yes.
And going out to eat. Because that's one of the biggest battles for us is planning our food enough so that we go out to eat less, because going out to eat is much more expensive than just grocery shopping and getting food. But then also we waste a lot of food sometimes because we don't plan well enough and we overbuy, or we buy too many vegetables and we didn't plan to make a vegetable meal and we throw out like 8 bins of lettuce a week. Not quite. That's an over-exaggeration.
That was an over-exaggeration.
But still.
Yeah. Like, have you seen those TikToks where it'll be the person like opening their fridge and they do the like passing of the lettuce bin? So they like have the bin, it goes in the trash, and they add the new one. And it's just the like.
Right. Not even open, but just like still full.
Yep.
Just a full lettuce bin.
Yeah. It's
every
just
week.
The exchange of the lettuce bin. That's a good TikTok.
Unfortunately, us a lot.
I know. And I hate it because I hate wasting food.
Yeah.
But it just happens. So anyway, we just have a couple tips of things that we find at least work for us. We're not perfect by any means. We're still trying to figure that out and get there. But these are things that at least work for us that we can kind of, rely on a bit.
Yeah. So should we start?
Let's do it.
Start at the top?
Yeah.
What do you got?
So first category of things, I don't know if it would be a category.
There's like 3 kind of categories to this. Our first one is just kind of like the planning.
Prepping and planning, because
for like foods you're going to make, kind of.
Well, prepping and planning both for, like once you get the food, like prepping things for the week, and also planning out.
Planning before you shop, planning what you're going to eat, meal planning in a sense. The biggest thing that's worked for us has been, again, basically that, just like not necessarily like meal prepping, but like just planning out what meals we're going to eat for each night of the week. Just having a basic, like Tuesdays is taco night, or Wednesdays is, I don't know, like chicken and rice. Just like that, very general, but like we know what we mean and we know what we need for those nights. That's like one of the biggest things that helps. Yeah,
because not only does it help with like going to the grocery store and like getting what you need, but it also helps during the week. Because I find that when we end up going out to eat the most is when we haven't really thought about what we're going to eat. And by the time you get to like dinner time and you're just hungry and you just want to eat and you just have no idea. Even if there is options in the fridge, if it's not easy there and you know what you're making, it's so easy to just like go out to eat.
Yeah. When we don't put in the forethought of what meals we're going to make that week, we end up going to the store and we just buy our basics of like, get some proteins, get some random vegetables we think we need, and we get some other essentials we think we might need. And then we just like, we get to a night and it's like, what are we going to make? And it's like, well, we can cook chicken again, or we can, I don't even know. Like, it's just like a mess. And then we end up like not wanting to cook because we didn't have a plan. But there's been times where it's like, all right, this week we're going to do, again, I always think of tacos. Tacos are white people taco night,
Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, Taco Tuesday, very American of me. But
yeah, if you know like generally like what you're going to eat.
Yeah, if you know what you're going to make on that night, then it's like you don't have to think about what you're going to make. So you can just get right into making it. And then it just makes the whole food time process easier without having to because when you hit the end of the day and you've been working hard on stuff and you're fatigued, you're tired at that 5 o'clock, it's so easy to just be like, let's just go get McDonald's.
It's
or
that whole decision fatigue.
Anywhere.
It's that decision fatigue. Anytime you can eliminate that, it really helps.
Yeah. And then all those small, even though you think they're small, it's always at least $20 nowadays.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is even going out to eat, even if you're just doing fast food, which isn't even that great anyway, but it's just convenient. Even that adds up so much. So yeah, even just basic fast food is so expensive.
So that's why this is the easiest thing you can do is just figure out what meals you're going to make. Because if you can do that, then you know what to shop for. You can just it just simplifies the whole process in my mind.
Yeah. So planning is a big one. And again, you can be as detailed as you want, even just that general planning, like what we said of having that, okay, I'm going to make pasta, some kind of pasta on this night, or I'm going to do a soup on this night. There's people that you can find those, they have their little food, category plans where they know there's a general category food. It's not necessarily a specific, but they know they're going to do Mexican food on one night or something. So whatever works for you, but just having some kind of plan really helps.
Helps a lot. Because you know what to buy at the store. You don't end up overbuying and you don't buy things you don't need and then end up wasting at the end of the week, hopefully.
Yeah. Or the worst thing that happens to me is I think I have an idea, when I'm at the store winging it and I'm in my head, I'm thinking of all these meal ideas. And then for some reason you hit 2 days into the week and it just is it all escapes you. You're why, what did I even buy? What was I planning to make? And then you're looking at a fridge and there's stuff in it, but you're I don't even know what to do with it. That's the worst. And that's when stuff gets wasted.
That's why I feel one thing that would help us is if we were to actually put a small whiteboard or something, or even just a notepad in our kitchen, because we don't have that. But it'd be nice to be able to keep track of those, because even when we do plan out the nights of the week of what
sometimes
we're going to eat, we just forget, or it's wait, what were we thinking?
Yeah.
So we should do that.
So
that
plan it out and just put it out there so that you can see it.
Right. And then when it comes to prepping your food, it also is very helpful to make the amount of cooking you have to do in a week. What we found worked good for us is if we prep not the meals themselves necessarily, but the ingredients.
Yes, this one is key, because with prepping this will be individual, because I think there's a whole variation of prepping and what you're prepping. So
it depends on your diet restrictions or diet or the way you eat.
Yeah.
But in general.
Because there are people that will prep entire meals and we've tried that before.
Tried it,
My problem is I won't want to eat it. I'll last about a day or two of okay, I'll eat it. But once that chicken is sitting in there for a few days, I'm
it's hard to prep multiple types of meals. So you end up eating the same 2 meals at max.
Yeah.
And then you get sick of it.
So I'm not the biggest fan of that. That hasn't really worked for us, but prepping the individual ingredients so that it's easier to grab out of the fridge. So
if you make rice, we will just cook a bunch of rice, save it. It's not as good as fresh rice, but it's pretty decent.
Yeah.
And it lasts a good couple days. It's prep all that rice up, cook your chicken or chicken breasts and just have it all prepped, but not mixed in with stuff. Or cut your vegetables ahead of time.
Yeah, produce is huge. If you pre-wash and cut up your veggies and your produce and stuff, that can be huge. And the trick is it takes that little bit of time after you come back from the grocery store, which is hard because there's those times when we get back from the grocery store and we just shove it all in the fridge and then that never ends well. But if you take that little bit of time to just prep some of the things, then it's
even just an hour on the weekend or on a weeknight, you have a free hour. Just doing whatever you can to be a step ahead takes a lot off. And one of the best tips for our kitchen that has helped so much is getting from Amazon. You can get a whole chunk, a big buttload of deli food storage containers, like those
Yes.
deli takeout containers that are cylinders. I'll put up an image maybe if I can of what they look like, but those are so helpful.
They really are.
They all have the exact same lid. It's just a circle lid that fits all of them. And then you have like half cup, or it's like half pound size, 2 pound size. And so then you can just grab what you need to put the stuff in, and it saves. They're microwave safe, dishwasher safe. They're not expensive, and they're so worth it. So like, if you're doing this and you're prepping stuff, even just in general in your kitchen, like that's so helpful versus like a ton of mismatched random Tupperware. So
yeah, those have been helpful.
Huge tip for like kitchen equipment is those. Just, that was a random thought. I wanted to put it out there.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
So then the next tip that is on our list, along with like the planning and prepping is when you cook your dinners, let's say like in our family, it's 2 of us. It's, you know, you and me, obviously. There's 2 of us in our family. We don't have kids or anything, but for us, we will cook when we can cook for 4 people so that we have leftovers for the next day. That is super helpful to make lunches easier.
Yeah. So that way you don't have to worry about, because I feel like that's like lunch is always really hard for us. Like obviously dinner is kind of a pain in the butt to try to think of too, but I feel like lunch is really hard because we both, you know, working in the middle of the day, you don't have a ton of time to make something. And I never know what to make for lunch. I feel like I'm always at a loss for what to make for lunch. So by making double dinner, then you just have those leftovers and it's just automatic, just reheat that for the next day. And that makes it a lot easier. It's one less meal you have to come up with and it's one less meal you have to make.
Yeah. I feel like breakfast is fine. Handling breakfast is easy.
Yeah. We tend to do the same thing.
We can think of our dinners, but lunch is just that meal in the day that's just like, I don't want a sandwich. I don't want a salad. I don't know what I want. It's hard to like have those things.
I never know what to make for
or
lunch.
Whatever. So it's just like, it's so much easier to just pull out leftovers, throw it in the microwave, heat it up, and you're good to go. And then you're not eating like the same thing every day for lunch. You're eating the same meal twice, and maybe you can gap it out or however it works. But like, it's so nice to like take that off the plate too with lunch.
Especially in the middle of the day. Like if you're busy, if you work, if you go into work, if you are just busy at home, we're remote, but even still like just being at home. Yeah. It's just that one less thing you have to worry about in the middle of the day. So.
Absolutely. So now we talk about like when we're grocery shopping.
Yes.
How do we save money when we grocery shop?
Yeah.
What do you got? What's the first one?
So one option, which is something that we've started trying more now that our grocery store has pickup in our area, is ordering online and picking the food up instead of going in the store. And this, we noticed a little bit of a difference. And if you're someone who definitely like over shops when you're in there, like physically in the grocery store, and you just like way overbuy, this could be something to try because it kind of forces you to just kind of get what you need and then go pick it up instead of wandering the store. And
right. And this can be a little bit tricky when you first start doing it, because figuring out, like, you kind of got to like visualize yourself in the store to do this.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of hard to like, I have a hard time picking the foods that I normally would find. It's just it can be a little bit tedious to sit and pick through all those things. But if you do our first step of planning what meals you're going to make,
then it's easier.
Then it's a lot easier to know like, okay, I need beef for tacos because we love tacos. I'm just kidding.
And because at least so we try to shop at Aldi as much as we can, which is another one of our tips. But it saves your previous purchases.
Yeah. Once you do it the first time, if you have an account set up with whatever store can do it, most of the time they keep track of your previous orders. So then it's pretty simple. If you order the same thing pretty often, you can just reorder or just go down your list and pick what things you need again, which is really convenient.
Yeah.
And then it just saves you that, like, yes, you have to sit down and do that online shopping, but it also saves you time on top of money with over shopping. Cause like, you don't have to go to the store for like an hour and pick out all the stuff.
Yeah. It really was, the few times that we've done it, it really was nice where you just roll up in your car and they put the groceries in the back and that was it. We didn't have to spend the time walking around the store.
Right. And sometimes you're going to pay like a couple dollars for that if you don't order enough food, or sometimes they have like a $35, minimum order. So like I wouldn't do it for that, but like if I have a full grocery haul, I'll do it. And if it costs like $5, I mean,
right. But if you're someone who like, if you're someone who will like, if you were to go in and like, maybe you would need to spend $100, but because you're wandering around the store, you end up spending like $200. If that extra $5 to get your stuff picked up, if like you need that, I feel like that would make a difference for someone.
And those weeks we do that, it's just like, it's really nice to not have to spend the time and the brain power to like be in a store and grocery shop. Mm-hmm. And it almost feels like a cheat code because you're like, I got all my food, but I didn't have to have the stress of going shopping.
So part of it is a convenience and just like taking that stress and the fatigue of having to go. But I think it can be a bit of a money saving tip. Again, if you're someone who tends to like overbuy when you're physically in the store.
Right. I think the couple times we've done it, like usually when we go in store, we spend somewhere between like $120 to $150 per trip. And the times we have done the online ordering, it's been more like 100, 104. So definitely spend less on whatever the random things are we spend.
Exactly.
So that makes that really nice. The next tip we have with grocery shopping, and again, you kind of alluded to it, is be intentional about what stores you choose to shop at. So the majority of our grocery shopping trips is at Aldi in the US here. We have Aldi, which is an amazing store that has relatively slightly cheaper prices on most things and good alternatives to things you would get in another store. So like we really don't miss out by going to Aldi, and it just helps.
And they've like had decent
They have good food. I mean, I really like a lot of their stuff. Like you can get good cheeses there. It's the best for good cheeses if you love charcuterie.
Well, and even when I was doing, so for me, I have more like health restriction things. Like I try to be like gluten-free, dairy-free, or, try to buy more organic beef or things when I can, especially when I'm trying to figure out any health things.
Right.
I have food sensitivities. So for me, I have to be a little bit more specific about what I buy. And lately with Aldi, like they'll have like the selection of like organic grass-fed like meat options that are way cheaper than at like the other grocery stores. So they do like Aldi really does have good options, even when you're trying to be like healthier. Cause I think that's also a hard thing too, is being cheap when you're not too worried about your health is one thing. If you're going to live off of ramen and like, spaghetti and whatever, that's one thing. But if you're someone who actually does have to worry about like your health, or you want to eat healthier, that's where it gets a little bit tricky.
Right.
On that though, I would say in terms of health wise, just stick to the whole real foods. If you're trying to be healthy, there's a lot of those like fancy, like health food things that are like packaged and stuff that just adds up. Like just stick to real food, because it really isn't that expensive if you just kind of stick to your like produce and your, meat, if you eat meat, or, whatever. It's when you try to get fancy with all the fancy extra stuff that adds up.
Very true.
That's just an extra.
What did I say?
Note.
Shop the perimeter of the store and don't go in the middle.
Yes. Shop the perimeter. Yeah. Like produce and meat prices and stuff they've gone up, but if you avoid the middle section, we usually end up spending less.
Right. The next one that we have is to make a list and stick to it. This kind of goes along with our prepping and planning for shopping. But by actually making a list of all the things you need and sticking to it, I mean, that's what I do whenever I have to go shopping. And I don't even look at anything else, because I'm just one track mind when I go.
It's very funny, the difference between the two of us when we go shopping. Like you literally will go in with a list and you won't even wander. It won't even cross your mind to get something else on the list.
Yeah. I put it on my app and I organize it through the store. So I know I just bang, 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 bang. And I'm in and out in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's an art form, I think.
It is an art form.
But that will help, because then you're not going to, again, with over shopping, a lot of these tips are kind of related to not over shopping and reducing that. So making a list, sticking to it. I mean, that's one of the best ways you can go in with intention and not over shop or buy too much.
Yeah. Intentional is a good word. That was a good word, Mitchell.
Thank you. I learned it this week on Sesame Street.
Did you?
Intention.
Yes, but shopping with intention, because anytime you go in and try to wing it, I don't think it never ends well. We never get what we need. You always miss something or buy too much or spend too much
junk food if you're trying to be healthy.
Yeah. So winging it never works out.
Absolutely.
So yeah, make a list.
And check it twice.
And the next thing, similar, I feel like it goes along with making a list, but it's actually checking your fridge, your pantry, actually seeing what you have before you go to the store.
We do this a lot where we don't do this and we come back and then we have to clean our fridge out because there's not room and we didn't check it first. And we're like, oh, we didn't need that thing. We didn't need that. Oh,
right. It's like, we already had an iceberg lettuce and I just bought a second one and I didn't actually need to get it. So again, helps with the over shopping. Also, because again, with planning, if you plan around with like what you currently have, you can also buy less. So like if you know you have like certain staples, like you have your rice
meat in your freezer already.
Right. You have those things already and you can plan your meals around it, then that's less that you would need to buy.
Right. Which is very helpful. Because again, this all comes back to trying not to waste food and that intention. So if you can really make sure that you are only getting what you need,
using what you have,
seeing what you have, trying to use things that are getting old in your pantry so that you're not going to throw those out when you realize you had a can of beans in there from like 8 years ago. It's just all those little things that these are all really little things, but in the grand scheme of things,
they make a difference.
And that's kind of the whole like thing with finances in general is all these little habits that you can get good at perfecting over time. They add up to making a big difference in, what you spend and how you can save your money.
Yep. The last one in this section is very cliche. It's said all the time, but it's so true. So it has to be said.
And what is that, Emma?
Don't go hungry.
Oh,
don't go to the grocery store hungry.
That is very true.
Yeah. I feel like, again, it's cliche. It's always said, but it needs to be said because it's true. If you go to the grocery store hungry, you will buy so much more than what you need.
I think thinking back, every time I've gone and bought stuff that was either bad for me or we didn't need was because I was hungry. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little cliche, but it belongs on the list because
eat a snack.
It's true. Yeah. Make yourself your food before you go. Eat a snack, whatever you need, but don't go hungry.
Go after lunch or after breakfast.
Yeah.
Not before.
Fun fact, I read a thing that said Wednesday nights are a good night to go grocery shopping because it's usually less busy. And
I could see that.
So you have less, fatigue and people to worry about.
Also, if you can figure out when your store restocks their food and go right after that, that's the best. I remember one time we went on a Friday night at 9 p.m. and it was stocked with all of the good, beautiful produce for Saturday morning. Yeah. And there was no one there because it was Friday night.
Because what do we do on Friday night?
We go grocery shopping sometimes. We go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
That was. So yeah, finding that ideal time to go to is good.
And that brings us nicely into our last sort of chunk of tips is about going out to eat. Because that is, again, a big money suck for our budget.
It is. And in general, going out to eat is expensive. And as we said, even fast food, that
adds up. It adds up quick.
Yeah. So these are sort of tips for how to both avoid going out to eat and also a little bit of if you're going to go out to eat, some tips of what you can do.
The first one is to actually, if you struggle with going out to eat multiple times, just sporadically, plan to go out to eat. If you're going to do it, at least plan for it so that you can limit the amount of time that you do go out to eat. Because sometimes there's this psychology thing where if you try to take it away completely and you're I can't go out to eat, that almost makes you go out to eat more. So that's the one thing that's kind of worked for us really well is if we've noticed that on Wednesday nights, for whatever reason, it's the middle of the week and we get just fatigued with cooking. That's the night we always end up going out to eat anyway. So let's just plan to go out to eat that night. And then at least we know that that's the night we're going out to eat. We're not going to go out any other nights of the week, and we can kind of look forward to it. And then we can kind of plan our life around that.
Yeah.
So that like, we know, okay, we're going to go probably like 4 or 5 months, depending on the month and how many weeks are in a month. But we know that like 4 trips out to eat, that's like $20, $25, $30 a time. So we're max going to be spending like maybe 200 or 150 in a month.
And it helps with budgeting too.
Yeah. Cause then you actually know what to plan for, you know what to put on your budget, and you can account for that stuff.
Yeah.
There's always going to be those times where like, if you have to go out and do something, you might get stuck having to go out to eat. But if you can limit those kind of sporadic nightly, going outs, that will definitely help your budget.
Yeah. It's the spontaneous going out to eats that add up really quick. And then before you know it, you've spent like $300 going out to eat.
Yeah. I was like the other week, I feel like we went out like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And we didn't even mean to. It was just like, we just had to.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Because we're bad at planning sometimes.
Yeah. That's the worst.
Yeah.
Now,
Again,
the other thing.
We're not perfect.
We're not perfect at all. We're all trying to do better in life, and we are a pure example of that. The next tip is that if you want to go out to eat, and that's your option.
Okay. So this one especially comes into play because a lot of times we try to be healthy. I feel like this is what happens a lot. So like we buy all this like healthy food, and then we hit a point in the week where we're like, I just want something good, and we're going to crack. So if you're going to crack, instead of going out to eat, just go to the grocery store and buy the thing to make it yourself. So instead of spending like $30 at, fast food Culver's to get a cheeseburger, like just go buy stuff to make a burger. It's so much cheaper.
Yeah, I would say we've done this. We do this all the time where it's like, I want a cheeseburger and fries right now. So we go to the grocery store instead, and we spend maybe $25. So maybe a little bit more than we would when we go out to eat. But then we have burgers, and we have enough stuff for like almost like 3 or 4 meals to make burgers with.
Instead of spending like $30 to just eat once.
Right. So then like it's kind of a trade-off, but in the end you're paying way less per meal, which is a good thing.
Yeah. And I remember when we did this, when we were craving Olive Garden. And I remember we're like, let's go to the store.
We wanted Olive Garden chicken Alfredo.
Yes. And we're like, which Olive Garden chicken Alfredo is ridiculously expensive.
It's like $20. It's like $17 for one person for a dinner portion.
Specifically, it seems like pasta. It's one of those things where it's so cheap to make.
Pasta's like $1 at the store.
It's so expensive to buy. So anyway, I remember we were craving Olive Garden, and we ended up just going to the store. And again, we spent maybe like...
It was probably like 15.
Oh yeah, like not even.
Yeah, it was not much.
Yes, it was way cheaper than going out to Olive Garden. And honestly, it was just as good. And like, is it good for you? No. But if we were going to do it anyway and go out to eat, at least we saved money doing it.
And it was actually, it tasted better.
Sometimes it turns out better even.
This does take some cooking skill if you have a specific like quality caliber of food you're craving. Like I think I've perfected the burger.
You have perfected
the smash burger particularly.
Yes. Like I would take your homemade burger over any other burger any day.
You heard it here first, folks.
It's pretty good.
So if you need a good burger, hit me up.
But yeah, that can just be a good thing because it's like, if you're going to crack, if you're going to go,
at least spend the money to buy, like if you're going to spend that money anyway, spend the money to make it last a few more meals.
Yeah.
That's just it's logical. It makes sense. It's helpful.
Yeah. And this might be controversial because I go back and forth with this too, because again, we try to be healthy, and I just feel like sometimes it can be a good idea to just keep those like backups in the fridge and like in the pantry. Like if we just have pasta, like should I eat pasta? No, it's not. Doesn't make me feel good. Like it's not like super healthy. I think you can make pasta healthy, but for me, It's not great. But if I keep
But
it
it's
in the back.
comfort food for when you're not feeling feeling the best, but just when you need it. That's the hard part.
But like if you have it in the back, at least you have that thing to like grab for it instead of going out to eat. Like, is that controversial? Maybe. Because some people I feel like are like, don't even keep it in the house and like, don't even make it an option. But we crack. We do not have willpower.
And it's better than like binging on stuff too. Because a lot of times it's like we're so hungry because we skipped a meal in the day or something.
Yeah.
And we're going to go out to eat, and then we're going to get dessert at, the gas station. Just like, it's just, it prevents the spiral.
It does. So just know yourself. Again, like for some people, it's like, I can't even keep it in the house. But honestly, if you just have those backups so that it's like, man, I really just want to make some pasta, then you at least make it instead of go spend it out to eat.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip. Now, here's a fun one if you can swing it. If you got parents and you want to go out to eat, invite the parents so that they pay. Win-win. Big brain.
Win-win. Yes.
Big brain.
Every time we're like, hey, would you guys want to go out to eat? We should go out. We haven't seen you in a while.
Let's hang out. Let's go get some dinner.
They usually end up paying.
This is kind of our unethical hack for food here.
Yes. So
we'll keep this one on the down low.
Yes. So if you're a parent, sorry.
But hey.
But it does work.
If it's your last option.
So last thing we have on here was a little bit of a fail for us, but I thought it'd be good to talk about because meal kits have become a big thing.
Meal kits are everywhere.
They're everywhere. And we went through this phase where we're like, man, like we waste a lot of food. We have the hardest time planning when we're, busy and just need that convenience.
Getting all that decision fatigue about even what to make or all that.
So we were like, let's just try meal kits and just see if it actually saves us money. Because again, what can happen is we end up grocery shopping multiple times in a week because like we go and then we don't get what we need or we're like, oh, I want something else. And so, we were like, well, maybe if we just get the meal kits, it's all there and maybe we'll waste less and buy less.
And we did try the multiple different spectrum of meal kits too, because we've done the ones that are similar to like HelloFresh. If you ever had that, where you have to make the meal, you just get the ingredients and the recipe. We've also tried, we tried Factor meals recently. This is not sponsored by any of these. This is the third episode, people. Come on. This is obviously not sponsored, but we did try Factor meals, and that's the one where you just get meals that have been made, they've not been frozen, and you just microwave them and heat them up. It's like a high
quality like microwave meal.
Yeah, it's basically a freezer meal that's not frozen and it's fresh technically.
Yeah. And I think in hindsight, it didn't quite work for us in a way that saved us money.
We understand the convenience of them. Like if you do struggle to come up with meals and like in terms of like the HelloFresh style ones, like they can be nice, but if you're trying to use them as a replacement of cooking, like you got to almost cook more than you would for just a simple meal to do the HelloFresh ones. So it's like in terms of saving time, that doesn't really help a whole ton other than cutting out the grocery shopping. You still have to cook the whole meal. You have to do all the work to do that. And in terms of saving money from going out to eat, it's basically, I'd say it kind of breaks even.
Yeah. It's not like it actually saved us any money.
Yeah.
Especially with the, like the full pre-prepped meals, the portions were so small.
Yeah, that was the one problem. I mean, they weren't bad. They weren't like horribly small. It was probably a normal portion. It was probably the portion we should be eating,
right.
If we're being honest here right now.
Right.
But yeah, we'd
be hungry again though.
We would be hungry again. And the problem is, I think sometimes we skip breakfast or lunch because we're busy or we just miss it kind of. So I think it was those days where like we would then eat a Factor meal for dinner And
then still be hungry and be like,
we're hungry.
We need
and
to
we
go
don't
get
have
more
food. So let's just go out to eat.
Let's go out to eat.
So we literally eat like second dinner, which is horrible, but we would.
Yeah.
So then again, in that case, we're spending like twice as much for dinner.
Right. So in terms of saving money, it really did, from our experience. Someone else may have done this and found that it saved them money, but for us, it didn't really work as a money saving tip.
No.
Convenience. Yeah.
The factor ones were convenient, but again, because they weren't quite filling enough. I mean, there are healthier options. That's kind of the goal. Is it's like a perfectly balanced nutrition meal or whatever. But yeah, the portion sizes weren't quite there. And again, I think it was probably user error because we didn't eat breakfast or like we skipped a breakfast or lunch sometimes. And then it's like, well, you want to go get Culver's or I don't know. It's just like, it's such a hard balance because it was great for the first week to take away the decision of dinner and not having to cook. Nice. It was really nice, that part of it. But then we got that second week of it and
it went downhill from there.
And the problem is like, financially, it was decent, but that's because they always hook you in with deals and like the discounts, but then those go away after the first couple times. So unless you're like constantly switching the different services or using multiple email addresses or whatever you got to do to get those discounts constantly, it really doesn't, it's not comparable to just cooking at home or even going out to eat almost.
Yeah. So I don't consider this a very good money saving tip. If you can afford it and it's convenient and it like helps you eat healthier or whatever it is, like, like I can see the benefit in that. But just in terms of like saving money, we tried it and I found that it really didn't help us actually save money.
Yeah. I think if it's like a tool to maybe help you expand what you eat or to teach you how to cook a little bit more, like that could be good. I think you're probably better off just learning how to cook on YouTube or taking a cooking class or just kind of learning how to cook better. And because you're going to be able to save so much more money if you do that. Yeah.
Like we're not like amazing cooks, but I feel like we've gotten to a point where we have those like few meals that we know how to cook really well.
Right.
And we've just sort of taught ourselves how to, or even just little things of just like how to make chicken so that it's actually tastes good, or how to make those like veggies and like actually cook them so that you'll actually will eat them. And like, we have those few things that we know how to do well. And like, if you know how to do that and you kind of have your things you stick to, I think that's better than anything else.
Yeah. I think the second kitchen utensil gadget suggestion, whatever you want to call it, is getting a nice cast iron pan and learning how to take care of it and use it properly, because that adds so much flavor. Cooking meat is just like easy. It tastes so good to have like a pan seared chicken or a steak, or that's where I make my burgers. So that's where I make my burgers. So if you want a good burger, get a cast iron pan. That will up your cooking.
Yes. We do like our cast iron pan. That's one that
it's a staple.
Use. Yeah, it's a staple.
Yeah. So that pretty much wraps up meal kits. But I think the biggest takeaway is just be intentional, plan ahead, stick to your lists, know what you're making. What else?
Yeah, I mean, it really is just being really intentional, because as soon as you aren't, that's when things start to get away from you. Like if you're not intentional about going out to eat, if you're not intentional about where you grocery shop, if you're not intentional about what you're buying, the prices will get away from you, and all of a sudden you're way over budget.
Right. So. I know the months where we go through phases where we struggle with, we're not on top of it with food. And those months, I mean, we probably spend a good $400 more a month when we're not being intentional and planning. So that's probably the biggest takeaway is you got to put in the effort. That's kind of the sucky part of becoming an adult and realizing that you have to take care of all this stuff and it's a ton of work, but it helps get you closer to your goals, hopefully. Yeah.
And just find what works for you and then just stick to it. So if you get into a good flow of like a good balance of finding, a process that
It's kind of that old adage of just doing a little bit at a time. Don't try to do a whole big change and implement necessarily all of these at once, but try one thing at a time, see if it works, if it helps save you some money, or if it helps make your life better. That's kind of what you can keep. And then if it doesn't, you can let it go and just kind of keep doing that and slowly develop to learn those good habits.
So those are just a few of our tips. If you have tips of your own, things that work for you, things that you do, we would love to hear them.
Please leave any comments, suggestions, whatever you got for us. You can leave them if you're watching on YouTube. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. If you're listening to this podcast elsewhere, please find us on Instagram. It's Married and Broke Podcast. That's our username. You could find us and reach out to us there. We would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. We really appreciate being here. If you found value from this, it would mean the world to us if you would subscribe or follow wherever you're watching or listening. Give us a thumbs up. That really helps out. Like it. Do all the things. We really appreciate it. And share it with a friend. Give a friend that you know. Give a married couple or who got in your life. Let them know about our podcast if you found it helpful. We would love to grow this, make it a fun part of your life, and take you along with us on our journey through life. So thanks for watching this week's episode of Married and Broke, and we will see you next time.